Godzilla is now in New York City.
Monster 01 and 02, commence the attack.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Stomp This Way. I'm super excited, guys. We're finally to this franchise, this series that I've been hyping up for a long time. The Gamera Heisei trilogy. Yay! I feel like we should have like angel voices. There you go. Dylan, you should be excited. Hey.
How's it going? It's going. It's pretty good.
It took 15 years after that last debacle of a movie we watched.
Debacle. Can you call that a movie?
Sort of. That last highlight reel or whatever you want to call it. Gamera came back, thankfully. Got a reboot. And so we're here to talk about it.
Yes.
Very exciting. That film, the first film in that trilogy is called Gamera Guardian of the Universe.
Yes.
Great title.
Is it the Guardian of the Universe?
Really just the Guardian of Earth, but, you know, it's still a great title, so, you know, don't ask questions. Or the original Japanese title was Gamera Giant Monster Midair Battle, which is more, very descriptive of the movie, I guess.
Yeah.
There is a giant monster midair battle. And, I mean, there's tons of production trivia or production information out there that you can hunt down, but I just kind of summarized some information here. So they greenlit, or they had, you know, Gamera movies on and off the table at Daiei for a while, but they finally got one greenlit as his 30th anniversary approached, which would have, you know, been in 1995. And so they went out and they'd heard that this director, Shusuke Kaneko, had been talking with Toho, to Tomoyuki Tanaka, about making a Godzilla movie. So they went out and got him and asked him if he'd do this movie because they knew he was interested in making a giant monster movie. And Kaneko got his start in Roman porno films. Not like Roman, like, you know, Little Roman, but Roman is a genre of Japanese softcore porno films. Before he guess he got his big breakout with some movie called
Summer Vacation 1999.
Yeah, Summer Vacation 1999, which actually came out in 1988, but yeah, whatever. So Kaneko originally, after he watched the Showa era Gamera movies, and he found it really hard to take them serious, so he wanted to make this movie into a comedy. He thought that would be the best route. But then he got with writer Kazunori Ito, who was coming off a big hit, a big anime hit called Patlabor the Movie. I guess it's really popular. I've never heard of it. And the same year that this came out, this guy also wrote the Ghost in the Shell anime movie. So really talented writer, obviously. I mean, he handed Shusuke a more serious take on Gamera, and Kaneko loved the script. So even though Dai wanted the film to be targeted towards children, Kaneko was really adamant about adapting Ito's script, and so he fought the studio and got this movie made. And just a couple little interesting notes. This is the first known occasion where a woman was a suit actor for a kaiju. She was the actress in the suit, the super Gyaos, quote-unquote suit. That's the big Gyaos at the end. Roger Ebert, actually, who is notoriously hard on giant monster movies, gave this movie a thumbs up. I actually watched his I hunted down his review of it on YouTube, and he basically, you know, said, you know, not the greatest movie ever made, but it reminded him of the few things that he did like about Godzilla movies, so he gave it a thumbs up. And Shinobu Nakayama was nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the Japanese Academy Awards. She plays the zoologist or whatever that, helps them study the Gyaos or whatever. So anyway, some box office information. This movie was released on March 11th, 1995. Had a budget of about $4.5 million. For comparison, the same year Godzilla vs. Destroyer came out, and it cost about $10 million to make. So about double the budget of this. And I would say that this movie looks just as good, if not better, than that movie. So, congratulations. And then it had a box office reportedly of around $6 million. So, not a mega hit, but enough for them to greenlight a sequel, apparently. So, here we are. But we are going to listen to the trailer, then we're going to come back, read off the cast and crew, read off the plot summary, and we'll talk about Gamera, Guardian of the Universe. So, see you in a bit.
Here.
A village on Himagami Island has been destroyed by giant birds.
Alright, we're back. This film is directed by Shusuke Kaneko, written by Kazunori Ito, music by Kow Otani, effects by Shinji Higuchi, and starring Tsuyoshi Ihara, Akira Onidera, Shinobu Nakayama, Ayako Fujitani, who is also the daughter of Steven Seagal. So there you go.
Fancy.
I would say this is probably better than any film that he made, in my opinion. And then we have Yumi Kanayama as Gyaos and Naoaki Manabe as Gamera. So Dylan, I tried to condense the plot a little bit, so what we got?
Things.
Yes.
Off the coast of the Philippines, a ship carrying plutonium runs aground on a floating atoll. After several more incidents are reported, a research team hunts down the atoll and finds that it is covered in small beads as well as an ancient tablet buried in the rock. Meanwhile, a trio of giant birds are discovered in the Goto archipelago that eat humans. The self-defense force lures the creature to the Fukuoka Dome, but the capture attempt is interrupted by a giant turtle who kills one of the birds but fails to get the other two before they escape. Afterwards, scientist Kusanagi translates the ruins and learns that the giant turtle is called Gamera and the bird creatures are called Gyaos. One of his fellow researchers gives his daughter Asagi one of the beads found on Gamera's back, and when she touches it, forms a connection with Gamera that allows her to read his mind, but also forces her to feel his pain. Another encounter in the mountains leaves only one Gyaos alive, but also results in grave wounds for Gamera that force him to rest in the sea. In the meantime, the last Gyaos grows to nearly equal size of Gamera and attacks Tokyo. It lays eggs on Tokyo Tower, but Gamera returns to rid the world of the giant bird. A massive battle ensues, and boosted by his bond with Asagi, the giant turtle is able to defeat the evil Gyaos. In the final scene, Gamera releases Asagi from their bond and returns to the sea as credits roll.
Sweet. Alright, so, Dylan, I really hyped this up. What were your feelings going into it?
I was expecting this movie to be fantastic.
I feel some sarcasm in your voice.
I've been hearing Aaron talk about the 90s Heisei Gamera, the 90s Heisei Gamera trilogy since we started this podcast. These are probably some of the best monster movies ever made in Japan, if not the best monster movie to ever come out of Japan, ever. I'm expecting a masterpiece.
All right, well, we'll start at the beginning. So, this film starts out, there's some cargo ships carrying some plutonium. So, I mean, obviously, you can tell it right away. They actually had a budget for this one.
They had a budget,
They are
guys.
actually filming real ships in a real sea.
Guys, they're boats.
I will say, a lot of the shots in the beginning of this movie, though, it still kind of has a lower budget feel because it looks like, you know, there's like a lot of scenes where they were hand holding the camera when they were filming it, so it was kind of shaky. Whereas, you know, usually when they have these big cinematic movies, the camera's always perfectly still. but I think it looks really good, you know. So obviously big budget increase, but these guys they're transporting plutonium
On a big boat,
and they run aground on what they determine to be a floating atoll, which is odd. So they,
because the water at this depth is supposed to be like 1.8 kilometers or something like that.
Deep.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be way down there. So yeah, it is what it is. And so they get out, later they, you know, report it, and some research teams gets out there and they find this thing, and they find these little like
Amulet-looking things.
amulet-looking things, and it's a big
Monolith
thing buried
tablet thing.
buried in Gamera's back, or I guess buried in the rocks that are stuck to Gamera, I guess would be more accurate. But no, you know, Gamera's pretty docile. He lets these people get up and walk all around. And I guess he's still asleep at this point. And I guess they wake him up
By digging at his back.
Yeah, we're digging out this tablet or whatever. But meanwhile, this movie is one of those movies where, you know, a lot of Japanese movies we talk about do this. I always point to Phantom Menace as an American example. Doesn't really have a central character. It has during this whole, you know, cargo ship sequence and you know, investigating this floating atoll, we are introduced to the main male character whose name I already forgot, and he plays a big role. Then we meet this scientist lady. She's a zoologist or something like that, ornithologist or whatever, person that studies birds, and she is asked by the government to go look at this island where there's some sailors gone missing, and they discover these giant Gyaos. And I think we first see Gyaos is the first kaiju we see, and I think we see him around the 14-minute mark.
Something like that.
And so, you know, there's 3 Gyaos at first. Or I guess there's really only 3 Gyaos in the whole movie. And so they come
like baby ones that end up getting eaten or something like that.
Yeah, we see some carcasses of some baby ones. But the government decides that this is an endangered, which, you know, usually it's the opposite. You know, usually if you're going to have an ecological message, the government would come in and say, oh, we got to kill these monsters. They're a danger to society. But no, the government's kind of made out to be, I don't want to say the bad guy, but makes the situation problematic because the government doesn't want to kill these creatures. They want to preserve them.
Gamera.
Yeah, and then later they want to kill Gamera. Because, yeah, at first it is kind of weird. At first they're like, oh, these could be a rare bird species. We had to preserve them per the orders from the cabinet. But when Gamera shows up, they're immediately like,
kill that thing.
We got to kill Gamera.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, Gamera's much bigger and much harder to capture, I'm sure. But so they devise this plan to trap these things in the Fukuoka Dome, which is, I guess, this giant baseball stadium. Cool looking baseball stadium, especially for 1995.
Yeah.
In the middle of Fukuoka. And so, yeah, we have this pretty cool scene, I think, where they use spotlights basically to lure them in, and then they
close the dome,
and they try to pump them full of tranquilizer, which, you know, she said earlier something about, oh, we got to be so careful with this dosage. Too little will not put them to sleep, and too much will kill them. But they, like, pump one of them, like, full of, like, several dozen darts. And it foams at the mouth for a while, but it lives.
For now,
but one of the creatures gets away because they didn't close the dome fast enough, and they started shooting too early. But who comes out of the ocean?
Gamera.
Around the 31-minute mark in all of his glory. Gamera.
The giant turtle.
And he swats it and kills it. But and he goes and attacks the dome, but, you know, actually he probably doesn't help the situation because they get away. One thing I really like about this movie is obviously everything is getting an update, but they bring back Gamera's classic roar. Really appreciate that. They bring back Gyaos' classic roar, and they bring back Gyaos' little supersonic laser beam thing, and he's able to slice out of his cage and get
Sure
away.
do.
Oh yeah.
And so from that point, we were at some point introduced to one of the other main characters of this movie, which is Asagi. Asagi probably is how they say it. She is Steven Seagal's daughter, like I said, played by Steven Seagal's daughter. One of the research guy, the other main character that we meet at the male main character that we met at the beginning, he's taking one of these amulet things, and he gives one of them to her, and when she touches it,
She forms a connection with Gamera.
for some reason she's the one that's chosen to form a connection with Gamera, and we learn throughout the film that she can read Gamera's mind, but she can understand his thoughts, but she also very E.T.-esque. She can feel all of the pain and suffering that he goes through, but also I get the way I understand it is that it helps Gamera because it kind of takes the burden of the pain off of him, helps him heal faster, that he can share the pain with this young child. And I think it's a good way for Gamera in the Showa era they made a big deal out of him being the friend of all children, and I think this is a way for them to kind of carry that over into a more quote unquote serious take on the character, even though it is a ripoff of E.T. But that's okay. So after this, she gets the amulet. I think we have our second big action sequence. What time did we say about the
48-ish,
49
minute mark? They end up having this little skirmish in the woods near this
island.
bridge.
Yeah, we get on a bridge, and the ornithologist girl has got this little kid in her arms, and she's trying to make it across the bridge during a guy's
gets her
attack.
foot stuck.
And she falls, and the kid starts crying, and it gets the
Attracts
attention of the Gyaos.
Big Gyaos.
But Gamera can't let a child die, so when just as Gyaos is powering up his
He shoots a fireball at it.
he shoots a fireball,
Yeah.
and he uses his hand to block the laser beam as it's as that from Gyaos to keep the people safe. But when the Gamera's hand gets cut up, Asagi gets a bruise on her knuckles. Really sad. But then Gamera kills one of the two remaining Gyaos with a fireball, I think.
Yeah.
And the other one gets away. But Gamera's got to go to the bottom of the ocean to heal, which means Asagi's going to go to sleep for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so the government's like, oh, we got to kill Gamera. And so they, I don't know, devise a plan to surround him with tanks and shoot missiles at him and
Shoot missiles at him and try to blow him up or something.
blow him up. And but he gets away.
He does.
What'd you think about the first time Gamera took off? Was it like a hoorah moment? I guess that was way back at the Fukuoka Dome.
And it's like a space shuttle taking off. More than
Smokes, yeah.
It's more like a space shuttle taking off than in like the Showa era films that we've seen, where he kind of just blue flames randomly start coming out of all orifices.
Yeah.
And he starts spinning and kind of just takes off. No, he takes off like a freaking space shuttle, and then sucks his legs in, and then starts spinning off.
Yeah, and one more thing I appreciate about this movie is that they actually carry over the flying sound effect over from the Showa era too, so that's pretty neat. But yeah, so we get to the finale of this movie where Gyaos they're trying to kill Gyaos, doesn't work. They accidentally blow up the Tokyo Tower in the process, and on the ruins of the Tokyo Tower, this Gyaos is going to nest because they've determined that. So, we get some backstory on Gamera. What they theorize from this tablet is that both he and the Gyaos were made by Atlanteans, but the Gyaos turned on the Atlanteans. So in the last-ditch effort to survive, they made Gamera, but it was too late. So they just kind of let Gamera sleep to save future generations in case the Gyaos ever returned or something. And now that, we get our quick global warming message where conditions are right for the Gyaos to return because of all the carbon monoxide and deforestation or whatever. But the Gyaos can reproduce asexually, just like Godzilla from the Roland Emmerich movie. And it lays eggs in the Tokyo Tower. But Gamera shows up, and we have a big fight.
Yeah.
Giant, what does it say? What was the title? Giant monster midair battle ensues.
Yeah.
And I think it's a
Some
fun
of it
fight.
takes place midair.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I think I really like, when they were making this movie, they wanted to try to make more of an attempt to see the monsters from a more human's perspective than what you might see in the Heisei Godzilla movies. In the Heisei era, there was a lot of overhead shots of the monster fights and everything, which is fine. But this one, they wanted to try to really more capture the scale of these monsters compared to humans. So they built these more detailed, closer quarters miniature sets, and they have a lot of low angles, especially in this final fight. They have a lot of low angles of Gyaos and Gamera fighting, which I think is really neat. And I think, we'll talk about some of the flying stuff in the effects section. Maybe leaves a little to be desired, but in this film at least.
But anyway, so they're fighting, and then they take off into space.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Gamera uses Gyaos as like a shield during the re-entry.
Mm-hmm.
And body slams him into the ground, basically.
Yeah.
But Gyaos survives. There's lots of explosions. Lots of explosion at the end. Gyaos survives. He cut his own foot off to get out of Gamera's
so he didn't get body slammed to the ground.
Which is a nice homage to the first Gamera vs. Gyaos film. Remember when Gyaos cut his own foot off, or his foot got ripped off by Gamera during that first fight? So I like that little homage there. And but Gamera gets up. He sucks in the fire and creates a super fireball, which blows the head off of Gyaos.
Yes.
And then we have a touching moment where Gamera
is nodding and roaring at
Asagi, which basically signifies he heals her wounds.
He goes,
and then he severs their connection, I guess we can assume, and then he returns to the sea, and we get a giant "the end" and credits roll. What'd you think? So let me tell you, what'd you think? Was it at least acknowledged that it was a step up from the Showa era films?
It's definitely a step up from the Showa era films. I'll
yeah.
give you that. I don't think it's maybe the other two are the ones you are saying are the masterpiece that they are. This one is not a masterpiece by any stretch, I don't think.
I will acknowledge
I
that.
think it's about on par with the mid-tier Heisei era Godzilla films.
I'll acknowledge that this one is more. I think this one is more. I think it's a big jump from any of the Gamera films that came before it. I do think it is kind of a stepping stone, though, because I do think that the next two films are really, really good. Now, you may not agree, but I do think the next two films are really, really good.
Yeah.
I think Andrew will back me up on that one.
I like them.
I'll be the judge of that.
I think this one's really good as well, and I think
it's definitely a large step up.
Yeah.
Just in terms of storytelling and pacing,
production
value in general.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that they maybe don't pull off great in this film, but they are trying to do that. I think really sets the stage for what they're going to really do well in the next two films. But no, I think it's a pretty well. Yeah, I wish there was more of a. I think they should have made Asagi more of the central focus of the movie. I mean, maybe kind of made it more ET-ish, which I don't want it to be a straight up rip off or anything. But Bumblebee, which is a straight up rip off. But I think maybe they should have tried to make her more of the central character instead of having it divided between the 3 or 4 characters that we do have it divided between. But, I think all the actors do a good job. I don't think, even the comic relief guy you were kind of making fun of, the local cop.
He's literally he sounds exactly like a Japanese Charlie Day.
He does have that same kind of voice inflection, doesn't he? But, I think he's kind of funny, and I think everybody else does a good job in their roles, so... No.
Maybe it's just because I have that voice in my head from the last two Pacific movies.
Yeah, but no, I think it's a good start. You want to move on to creature design?
Sure.
So let's start with Gamera. I really like the look of Gamera in this movie.
He's big.
He's big.
I like obviously we have don't have the light up eyes anymore.
No, he's got big glossy plastic eyes now.
They're pretty eyes,
They're
pretty
cool.
green.
At one point, they're CGI eyes when he wakes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the redesign. I like the big, tusk that they have. They carry that over, but...
And he still looks like a big, giant turtle.
Yeah, but I think the shell looks really good.
But he's got elbow spikes.
Yeah, he does have elbow spikes at one point. That's really cool. But I think the suit looks really good. It's a nice updated version of classic Gamera.
He looks a lot like the OG Gamera, just a lot more updated, obviously.
Yeah. You like his fireball?
He's got a big fireball.
I like fireballs.
Do you like him more than his fire breath?
I think they're cooler than
you
his
say?
fire breath. Yeah.
Just big old fireball.
What do you think about his flying? I think it looks pretty neat.
It's cool.
I think it's cool.
It's not as bright and colorful as
not those
as
big blue
big
sparklers.
blue sparklers. Or whatever.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the effect
Yeah.
on here in a minute.
But I like the way like you talked about how he kind of like has stages to his launches where he like
he takes off like a space
Smokes
shuttle and
and
then
then-
sucks his arms in and then starts spinning
Yeah.
off.
Then Gyaos.
Guy's ugly.
Gyaos is ugly.
pretty ugly.
And I don't think the flying props look very good.
No.
When the
The
puppet,
flying puppets are bad.
Yeah.
the puppets they have for when it's like close-ups of his head, I think it looks fine. It looks kind of grotesque, which is what they were going for. I think it looks all right.
It almost looks like they took the bat shape kind of thing, very angular shape of Gaia's head from the
Yeah.
original, and then like took a baby bird before it got its feathers. That's how ugly it is.
Yeah, that is kind of what it
Yeah.
looks like.
It's like baby bird, but a large and an angular head, a Gaia's head.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
yeah. But I like the overall design of Gaios. I do wish
Yeah.
they had kind of pulled off the flying props
And he
there.
also has plastic eyes.
The wing movements of the flying props look very unnatural, unfortunately. Yeah, very like. But then again, once it turns into a suit, for the final battle, I think it looks pretty good. I like they got a female suit actress, so it looks thinner and more sleek than Gamera, and I think that was a good look that they pulled.
It definitely does not look as much like the original Gyaos as Gamera looks like the original Gamera for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they do make some more updates to Gaios. Color scheme change.
Gyaos looks much more like a real what you could assume is a realistic creature compared to the original Gyaos.
Which was just like a man
A
with some
giant
wings.
purple
Yeah.
bat thing.
But moving on to what did you think about their update on Gaios's
It's a
laser
big
beam?
yellow beam.
I like the way that it like Gamera powers up
Yeah.
his jet boosters. I like the way that they like suck it in, and then it's like this kind of like wavy effect, and then it turns
Slices and
It kind of
dices.
like condenses down into a little laser thing, and the clean cuts like when they cut the bars.
It's like literally
nice.
soft.
Clean cut. Oh, so nice. It's so satisfying. But moving into effects, I guess we'll talk about the bad first. So, anytime the flying effects are kind of rough. The green screen effects of it are bad.
Yeah, the green screen effects when anything's flying is rough.
It's a
Even
little
and then the
rough.
props all look kind of rough. Even the Gamera prop, it looks like a prop when it's in the
The
air.
flying, like when Gamera, so when he first takes off, it's fine, but then they switch like the CGI when he sucks his arms in and starts spinning away.
Yeah.
It looks pretty bad.
Yeah, it looks kind of rough. Any CGI in this movie, maybe except for I like the fireball effect and the laser beam effect, but every other CGI effect, like the missiles and stuff, it looks pretty bad.
Not good.
Not good.
But the model work and miniatures are pretty good.
I think the
Yeah.
model work and miniatures are actually really good. There's a lot of like stuff you don't really see like in the Heisei era Godzilla films where they're more like pulled back wide angle shots. There's a lot of like really close up zoom in shots of these models where you can see like the little gravel and like the little bike racks and everything and each little individual window on the Tokyo Tower. I mean, I think these models, I mean, yeah, there are parts where the way they fall apart and stuff that you can tell that it's models, but I think the detail work on them is really, really good.
Yeah.
I was really impressed. And they built these, and there's large cityscapes. I think it's really impressive when Gamera and Gyaos are fighting in Tokyo at
Like
the end.
knocking buildings down on each other.
Yeah, and yeah, I think all that looks really good. I love the scene, and I think you commented that it looked cool when we have a shot through like the windows of one of these miniature buildings, and you have Gaios' head like knocked back into it. I think they did a really great job with the miniature work on this.
Yeah.
So good job. I think the matting effects.
There's a one shot that's a wide angle shot of the people running, and then like Gamera's tromping in the way background.
Yeah.
I assume is probably a rear projection shot that actually looks really good.
I think it's probably a matting effect, and I think it looks pretty good. There's some effects where we have people in the foreground, and like whether it's Gyaos or Gamera in the background, they look pretty good. Now again, in the air, not so much.
No, not so much.
Not
But
the best.
it's what it is.
But I gotta commend them for having real vehicles.
a lot of real
or
vehicles.
boats or whatever you want to say.
And boats
Real
and stuff like that.
boats.
Again, I really appreciate the classic sound effects. I think they've actually integrated into this movie pretty well. Now the old fashioned lightning effects kind of crack me up, but no, I think they do a pretty good job of integrating these classic sound effects into this movie. And speaking of integrating things, going into score, I think Kow Otani's score is a nice throwback to what you would kind of expect to hear in a Showa era monster movie.
I like it.
I like it a lot. I think it, some good military marches, good exciting music. When
I think it's probably the best score that we've heard out of 1A so far, almost.
of the game. Now,
Considering the fact that the majority of the scores for most of the Showa era film was Gamera.
now I love the Gamer March. And I'm sad that we won't hear it in
I'm
the rest
not.
of this franchise. But Dylan's like, God, please, never again. But no, I like the score that Kow Otani does here. And again, just like everything else about these movies, I think it gets better as the
I think
trilogy goes on.
I think it's definitely the what I would honestly say is maybe excluding the first film and I guess the second one. Maybe it was the Gamera March show up in the second film or the third
Gamera
film.
March doesn't show up until the third film, I believe.
I would say it's probably
Maybe the fourth film.
It's the first real score we've had probably since the first one, like a true
Like
true
complete score.
complete score.
With different cues for different scenes and everything, and not just variations of Gamera, Gamera.
Whatever that one kid did in that one movie.
That last movie, he had a new theme that he wrote.
Yeah.
But it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
But anyway, y'all wanted to do some final thoughts before we move into our news section?
Sure.
Andrew, why don't you start?
Well,
Yeah.
well, as we've been saying, this movie is a step up from the Heisei era.
This
From
is
the
the
show
Heisei
era.
era.
This is the
Right.
Heisei era.
I mean, the show era.
Yeah.
Made wrong thing.
Yeah, it's confusing.
I mean, it's a step up from the show era, but it still has its problems. The effects, some of those effects are not that good.
Yeah.
Some of them are passable, but some of them, no. The flying effects are not good. The flying effects, when Gyaos is flying around, they're not very good at all. But the Gamera's flying sequences look cooler and more realistic than the ones in the show era films.
Sure.
Some of them. But the score, I like the score. It's no Gamma March, but
No.
it's good. Well, I think I'm gonna give this movie a B minus.
A B minus.
Me.
Dylan, what do you think?
I think it's all right.
It's all right. I'll accept that.
It is a large step up compared to the Showa era Gamera films. It's much better paced, I think. The action is much more comprehensible and filmed in a way that is more engaging for the viewer. The characters they're all right.
They're serviceable for a giant monster
They're
movie.
here. One of them has a very strong connection with Godzilla.
Can I get a
Not-
Godzilla?
not
Gamera, whoever we're talking about.
You take that back, you son of a... Sorry.
Sorry, I'm thinking about the Heisei era of Godzilla when the one psychic chick has a connection with Godzilla.
I mean, we share ideas here.
It's all the same. Toho did distribute this,
Yeah, they did. Toho did. Their logo is onto this movie.
Yeah.
but overall, I mean, it's not bad. It's paced pretty well, which is helpful to try to keep you engaged. The design of Gamera, I think it's a really nice update. I like the way he looks a lot. Gyaos is ugly as sin, but I think that's what they were going for, and it works pretty well. Cool update on him. The effects, I think I gotta give this movie props for the effects. Honestly, I mean there are some rough effects with the matting shots of the flying and the CGI on the flying and stuff like that. But if you exclude that, the rest of the effects are really good. The model work is fantastic. I think rivals the Godzilla films for sure. I think that some of the other matting shots, like with people in front of these backgrounds where the monsters are rampaging in the background, are actually really good. The laser effects and the fireball effect looks really good, all that, and I'm glad that they used actual boats and cars and things in this film as opposed to little bitty toys, because that's like one of my pet peeves in these movies is when you take little bitty toys, especially when you put tiny little people on them. And I think the score for this movie is actually really good. It's definitely the best score that we've had probably in a long time. Yeah. So I think it's a really fun score. Works really well for the scenes that it accompanies. Overall, it's not a bad movie. Not quite the just excellent film that I think you were kind of hyping it up to be, and as I was expecting. But I'll give it a B-.
All right. Well, I see what you guys are saying, and yeah, I agree. We talked about the effects aren't always great in this movie. Anything to do with them flying is usually not really good. But I'm going to say this. I think there's a lot of things here that are, again, a huge improvement over the Showa era. I think, in terms of storytelling. And I'm not going to say this is a great script because it's not. I mean, the characters aren't really ever fleshed out. There's too many characters, and it kind of gets sidetracked with all of them. I think that they should have really picked one of them to really focus on for this movie. Probably
I think had they focused on her, it would have been a lot better.
Yeah, the whole Bond with Gamera thing is kind of a cross between an ET ripoff and a Mickey Sagusa ripoff from Heisei Godzilla, but that's okay as long as you do it in a tasteful manner, I guess. And it gives again, like I said, a good way for them to update the kind of friend of all children thing. I think the model work in this movie is really great. I think it's as good, if not better, than the best model work we see in the Heisei Godzilla era. I think the way this movie is shot is as good, if not better, than the best Heisei Godzilla movies. I love Gamera having a fireball instead of just like a flamethrower in his mouth. I think again the score is good, and I think there's a lot of good things that they introduce in this movie that they build on and really succeed at in the next two films. I really love the next two films. I think they're the two of the best monster movies ever made. So I'm really excited to continue on with this trilogy. But I'm gonna give this movie an A-. I really enjoy this movie despite its flaws. Dylan's like, what is wrong with you? I really enjoy this movie.
A-?
Yes, an A-. I think it's quite enjoyable. I really enjoy that final battle. I think it's really well staged and really well done. And I love the updates they make to Gamera. Just like the Gamera suit. I think it's a great way to honor the original design of Gamera, but kind of bring it to the 90s and update it. And I love the way Gyaos, again, flying props don't look great, but the general design of Gyaos I think is really good. A really great update.
I'll take it back. I give it an F.
No, I'm going to give it an A-. I really enjoy this movie, but I do think it gets better. I understand your complaints, and I do think they build upon their success with this movie, and I think it gets better. So we'll get to that in a couple of weeks. Does anybody know what we're watching next week?
A film.
A film about a giant monster.
Yeah.
I was looking at our schedule the other day.
Yeah.
Okay, and I realized that the last F I gave out, okay, so we all pretty much gave an F to the giant Gila monster, right? The last F I gave out before that, September of 2019.
What was it for?
I think it was Varan.
Oh, really? Did you give an F to Varan? Yeah. Jerk. Arsehole. Here, I'm pulling up our schedule. I'm working fast.
What you got over there?
So, pulling up our schedules. Let me see what we got. So, we just watched Gamera, Guardian of the Universe. So, next week, we're going back to
Harryhausen.
Ray Harryhausen with It Came From Beneath the Sea. And then we're going to watch Gamera, Advent of Legion. And then we're going to watch a Toho classic sci-fi film I've never seen before, Gorath. Which,
Bring back the Dream Team?
Bringing back the Dream Team. Maybe not for their dream project, but bringing back the Dream Team. From my basic understanding of the plot, I think it's basically the Japanese version of When Worlds Collide. So, interesting. And maybe not exactly a kaiju movie, but there is a kaiju in it, at least briefly. So, there you go. And then Gamera, Revenge of Iris, maybe the greatest movie ever made.
No.
Yes. And then we're going to watch The X from Outer Space. Ooh. And then we're going to watch Godzilla vs. Kong, if it keeps its release date.
It probably will.
And then King Kong.
They've already spent a bunch of money on marketing for it already.
Monster X Strikes Back. And then, King Kong, or Son of Kong, Mighty Joe Young, King Kong Escapes, Mighty Joe Young, the remake, King Kong Rampage, King Kong Lives, Clash of the Titans, King Kong, Clash of the Titans, Skull Island, Wrath of the Titans, and then we'll start our Tremors franchise.
Ooh.
So there you go.
Ooh.
That's a look at our upcoming schedule. So yeah, you can probably. I'm sure it came from beneath the sea. It's free to watch, probably on Pluto or something. So check it out. I've never seen it.
Do you own that?
I do. I have it like on one of these double feature Blu-rays back here.
Fancy.
I've never seen it, so it'll be a film that I think we're probably all watching for the first time. So that'll be fun. So
Gotta love the master.
gotta love Ray Harryhausen. He knew how to do stop motion. So there you go. Other than that,
News.
I guess we haven't even talked about news yet. Look at me get
No.
ahead of myself. So some exciting things happened, and we are recording this episode a little earlier than normal. So if we miss some late breaking news,
Sorry.
I apologize.
We'll talk about it the next week.
We'll get to it the next week. There was a new teaser for Godzilla Singular Point, which I think kind of gives us more of a feel for how this anime is gonna, what kind of anime is gonna be. It feels very anime-ish, which I think I'm excited for. I'm excited to get kind of like a My Hero Academia.
That's the people who's making it, isn't it?
Yeah, that studio. That kind of classic anime feel with Godzilla in it versus whatever that anime trilogy was we watched.
I think there are like brief glimpses of what appears to maybe be Rodan in the trailer that I saw,
Rodan
and
is in
he
the trailer.
literally just looks like a pterodactyl.
Yeah, but he has Rodan's roar.
He does not look like Rodan that you've ever seen before.
But most animes have a prominently featured non-human character, whether it be a robot or some kind of monster or alien. Looks like that role is going to be filled by Jet Jaguar in this movie. He's going to be the robot helping
Jet
humans.
Jaguar.
Jet Jaguar.
Yeah.
Jet Jaguar.
Jaguar.
No, they literally say that. Jet Jaguar.
So that's interesting, and I'm glad Jet Jaguar's finally getting his due. We don't actually see Godzilla in the
It's
trailer.
the first time he's been in anything since his one movie.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
actually see Godzilla in the trailer. I think he's mentioned like once maybe. But no, I am intrigued. Let's say that. I know it comes out in Japan on April 4th. I don't know if that's also going to be the Netflix. I mean, I guess that was the Netflix trailer, so that might be the Netflix premiere date as well. So
Because it premieres on Netflix Japan first.
no, it's actually going to, my understanding is it's going to air on TV in Japan first and then going to go to Netflix. For
It said April?
International distribution, yeah.
Did it say April?
Yeah, it said 4, which I assume was the 4th month of the year, which is April.
I don't know. I know the next thing that we're going to talk about said March the 4th.
March the 4th. Yes, and that is Pacific Rim The Black, whatever that means.
It looks like is it a movie or is it a series?
It's a series.
It's a series.
And based on the synopsis I read, is set in Australia.
Yeah, it did say that in the trailer.
Yeah.
I did say that in the trailer, and
Sure
it's
did.
about a
Several
couple
times.
of orphans whose parents are killed, and they find an abandoned Jaeger, and they pilot it to fight monsters. I'm not sure. I think it's I want to say I read at some point that it's a prequel. Don't quote me on that. Or is it at least set? I don't know. It's set sometime.
It takes place in the Pacific Rim universe.
Yes, it takes place in the Pacific Rim universe.
Bad thing about this.
What?
It is the 3D animation style of the Godzilla.
The CG animation style.
Oh, I don't like that.
I'm not a fan of that. I don't know why they insist on doing that, continuing that trend.
Like either do CG animation, like true like American CG animation, or you do hand drawn Japanese animation.
Yeah.
Pick one. Not a combination of the two. It does not look good.
Yeah. Which it does look like in that Godzilla Singular Point. Like the characters are more like mostly cel-drawn animation. I think they are going to use some CG with the kaiju, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of just like that kind of.
This 3D CGI animation with like trying to infuse the traditional Japanese anime style. It does not work well.
Yeah, I don't like it. I haven't seen any show where I did like it on. The only one that I kind of gave it a pass on was the Ultraman anime, but they did it like they really like played it up in that to where it almost had like kind of like how Into the Spider-Verse almost had like a comic booky feel.
Yeah.
I kind of had like an uncanny vibe like that, the way they did it, but I still wasn't a huge fan of it. So yeah, that is a little disappointing. But I guess we're gonna watch it. I'm not gonna make Dylan watch it if he doesn't want to. We might review it, we might not. I just kind of think it depends.
Depends on how many episodes it is.
And yeah, that also depends on that. And then also, for fans of Gareth Edwards' Godzilla movie, it is finally getting a 4K release.
Sure is.
On March 23rd.
Oh,
The
yeah.
week before
The new one.
Godzilla vs. Kong.
That's right. I think
Perfect
it's
timing.
a steelbook,
Perfect.
isn't it?
There is going to be a steelbook version of it.
I also said that I think it's UMV or HMV is it's a British company, a Europe exclusive, UK exclusive. is getting like this whole like booklet and all kinds of fancy stuff. But that's a UK exclusive, so not over here. For our UK listeners, if you exist.
Speaking of UK listeners, not necessarily a giant monster movie, but a Japanese film, Arrow Video is allegedly releasing a 4K release of Battle Royale.
I think it's Battle Royale and Battle Royale 2.
And it's like it looks like it's might be 4 movies. I don't know if there's 4 of those, but there's a big box set.
I think there's 2 special features
with a bunch of stuff. Anyway, yeah.
So that's there.
But apparently it's a Europe exclusive. But as far as I'm aware, all 4K discs are region free. So import it if you feel like it. Might take a while, but you can.
You'll get it. I don't need it.
Probably
need it. Probably.
Depends on how much it is.
I do have more disposable income now. And you know what? I'm also going to do a recommendation. I know this may be presumptive of me to think that if you're listening to this, there's a good probability that you also like anime. But Andrew and I have recently started watching Demon Slayer.
Oh, yeah.
Which the Demon Slayer movie recently premiered in Japan. I say recently, it's a few months ago now, I guess.
And it's since become the highest grossing Japanese film in Japanese box office ever.
Literally shattered every, like I read through all the records that it broke. Shattered every record in a record shattering pace. Most of those records were held by Spirited Away. So, and I think that Fathom is finally going to get around to releasing that here in February sometime. So, there's only 26 episodes of the anime. Andrew and I have only got 2 more to go. It's really good. I mean, I was kind of sketchy on the first couple episodes, but after that, it really kicked in. I really enjoyed it. So catch up on that, and then watch if you want to pay for a Fathom event.
Probably $15.
Probably $15. Catch up on that, and then watch the movie when it comes out and see what Japanese audiences have paid their hard-earned yen to go make the highest grossing movie of all time.
And if you're feeling really bold and you still like Japanese content, Studio Ghibli's new film is getting its Earwig or whatever is getting its Fathom release sometime, and I believe this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really? Is
new Studio Ghibli film? Yeah.
Is AMC getting it?
We are getting it. Yes, we'll have it dubbed and subbed, but it's $15 a ticket.
Andrew and I will be there.
I think it's dubbed one night and subbed the next.
Well, you better have it right on
or vice versa
on your website.
Well, it's not our website. Fathom's website messed up last time.
Have people coming in complaining. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, I think that's really all we got for you today. Don't forget that we are currently working on another podcast coming out on Fridays.
Sure are. It's called Movies Don't Create Psychos. We're currently getting ready to finish up the quote-unquote original franchise of Wrong Turn, and then we will review the new reboot requel thing, and then we will start the Conjuring franchise.
That's right. But as far as this podcast goes, you can contact us at stompthisway1954@gmail.com.
That is true. If you want to follow us on social media, we're up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are at Stomp This Way on all those platforms. Make sure you give us a like or a follow. Be sure to tell your friends about us.
That's right. We also have a website. Andrew, where can they find that website?
Well, they can find that website at www.stompthisway.podbean.com.
That's true. Over there, you can find that lovely schedule that Aaron was looking at earlier to try to find out what we're going to be watching for the next eternity.
Dylan looks at it and he's like...
There's some good movies in there.
I told Dylan the other day on our other podcast that I finally understood how he felt week in and week out.
Okay, listen, okay. You're the one who said that we had to watch Wrong Turn, okay? You did this to yourself.
I guess.
But now you know.
Now I know. Never watch him again.
But yeah, over there, like I said, you can find that schedule that Aaron was looking at. It will have grades for previous films, as well as the schedule out, like I said, for the end of eternity. And whatever news Aaron wants to keep us updated with, and backlog episodes, things of that nature.
That's right. So, again, join us next week for It Came From Beneath the Sea. And as always, I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dylan, and we'll catch you in the next one.